I think we should talk about this trailer first to lead off today's checkup and trailer roundup because it was the talk of the internet in terms of, entertainment the past couple days. And it seems like the internet, from what I've seen, largely negative on this trailer that came out from HBO. This will be debuting in August on HBO. No exact date, I believe, yet. But Ricky, it seems like there's a division between comic book fans who see this series and they don't see enough of the comic book elements versus the people that love prestige television that find it like, wow, you might be able to pull in some people that aren't naturally comic book fans. So it seems like you're alienating some people that are devoted to potentially these DC heroes, but then you're bringing in people that may not have been interested unless it had this tone. What were your thoughts? Where do you stand?
I think it was a pretty good trailer. And I think that's the bias of the prestige HBO television in me. But I think it's going to be good. And and not only did I think the trailer was pretty good, but I like the banter between the two of them. But I trust Damon Lindelof, right? And I trust this style from an HBO product here. And I think the comic book fans have a right to be upset. But are you surprised? I think literally when the show was announced, James Gunn announced this. He said True Detective, right? He said that it's going to go for that tone. And I think if you thought this is going to be all about the suits, think again. Like, I think if I had the expectations more like Watchmen, Damon Lindelof again, where the Watchmen, the TV show, where we're going to see some of that, but that's not going to be the core of the show. I think we're going to see that here. So that's why you saw a little bit of the ring. You saw a little bit of the costume, the actual Green Lantern suit. That's not going to be the core of the story. And I think HBO and this new DCU have already shown that they could execute a show like this. Look at the Penguin, right? I think you just look at that and say, I have to trust these guys. So I think the internet is a little too crazy or too negative on this trailer. I think, and Big Mike, shout out Big Mike, but also calling you out, Big Mike. You are the spearhead of this as our DC correspondent here and being negative on this trailer. I think your expectations, I think you just, I don't know what it was, if your comic book brain got phased out or phased over, what the actual expectations, what we're told, this was going to be. But this is exactly what I expected.
So Michael, Big Mike, our DC correspondent, you mentioned him. He texted us today and he just put in a GIF of someone saying, my disappointment is immeasurable and my day is ruined. And he said in a text afterwards how I feel about the Lanterns trailer. And Michael, that's why I want that response out of Mike, because he's a DC correspondent. Like, he believes in, comic accuracy, and he wants to be excited about, wow, we're getting Green Lantern finally. First time since the Snyder Cut for a scene, the first time since we had the travesty that was Ryan Reynolds' Green Lantern, we're getting Lanterns again. So I think people that, we're looking for the incorporation of Hal Jordan and Jon Stewart, and they don't see a single green glow, like in this trailer, I understand why you're a little bit upset, but I'm actually on your side. I'm a guy who knew exactly what was going to be fed to us. I knew this was going to have like a True Detective, grittier tone, mentor, mentee. It's not going to feel as fantastical as, let's say, Superman, yet set in the same world. It's going to have, right, very talented writers on it. I pulled up the writers here. So not only Lindelof is writing on this, but you have Chris Mundy from Ozark, and then you have Tom King, who is a comic book writer. And I looked up what he wrote for Green Lantern, and it's limited. Like, he has written limited, like, Green Lantern stuff. He's done Mr. Miracle. That series is coming. He's also on that show. But what I knew this was going to be like True Detective-esque. So as a fan of both prestige television and the DCEU, but not enough of a DC comic book fan where it would piss me off and I would hate tweet if I didn't see a green glow when Hal Jordan's flying, I'm not at that level, But do you think they should have fed us a little bit more?
No, because what do we always say about these trailers? Don't give us too much.
And I would say there is a pattern here with DC trailers in terms of the DCEU, where we see the first Superman trailer and we're like, he doesn't look very strong. and we walk and like, where are his powers? And we look at, or are there too many characters? This is that. And then we have the Supergirl trailer, and we're like, is she that strong? And then we're gonna have to see the movie. I think Superman, he looked a lot stronger than what the trailer kind of put on, but he still got his ass kicked in that movie. Here, you have the Green Lanterns. They're not Green Lantern. They're not showing it. They show John Stewart getting tested in that car with Hal Jordan jumping out, putting the ring on the dash, but they don't show you what happens in that car. Okay, the only thing they really give you is Hal Jordan flying. And I was still disappointed there was no like radiating green from his hand. Like I was just like,
some of that.
Like that would give me more of the comic book feel. You got to I know you're trying to have that True Detective tone, but you got to remember at the end of the day, this is going inside of the DCU. So you got to have that. And what else pissed people off, is the suit. When it was revealed it's in Hal Jordan's closet, if it is in fact Hal Jordan's, Green Lantern suit. Why people are pissed off, usually the ring creates the Green Lantern suit.
Right.
So do you have beef with that, Ricky? A lot of people were throwing their arms up in the air.
Beef. Do I have beef? I don't like it. Let's just say that. I think I don't have beef with it. I'm gonna wait to see if they explain it. I like the suit in the ring because again, just like that's like comic book accurate, and that's what, again, you always have the suit on you just in case. That's a classic superhero trope.
That's what I was going to say. It's a classic. You open the closet, and especially the old superhero aged, and the suit looks aged. It felt like just a common superhero trope.
But as his trailer suggests, this is a mentor-mentee where the mentor literally says, like, I'm the Green Lantern till I die, man. And they're teasing that to death. And I think we're going to see that at some point in this show with Hal Jordan, unfortunately. And we'll get the comic book slop like that we're all craving for. And maybe we'll get, hey, when we have a more active Green Lantern, it'll get put in the ring maybe at the end with John Stewart. That's just, again, a hypothesis or a prediction. But I think it was just like, it's on the shelf, like, because Hal Jordan, like, he's like on the shelf almost, like he's at the back end of his career. I'm trying to think of a better meaning behind it in actual closet, but HBO, David Lindelof and Tom King and the boys, they have a better reasoning for it. I'm gonna put my trust in them, like I said off the top.
So this is the difference between people that enjoy like storytelling versus like comic book accuracy, because that opening, when you see that, it looks like a sheriff opening up like, their old uniform and dusting it off. That tells you where we find probably Hal Jordan right now. That also kind of looked like, we know Hal Jordan's background. He's a pilot. It kind of had that beige, like you would see like Maverick type, like would wear in like Top Gun a little bit, but it has the Green Lantern logo in the middle. But it looks older because he is an older hero. We know from Superman is not the first superhero in the DCU. There are other heroes that have predated Superman by centuries inside of the DCU. So Hal Jordan has been around the block. And even when they're talking to the sheriff in the show, the sheriff's like, I get it, you're a big deal, type of thing. And John Stewart's kind of the new kid on the block, right? And it seems like this seems like their relationship is new. And I like the way that the trailer contrasted the two, honestly. Like when I see Hal Jordan, like older, but still arrogant, and then I look at and kind of unwilling to relinquish the reins, even though he may not still have it like he used to. And then John Stewart is the guy who's fresh, probably more creative with his abilities, and a guy who's better at protecting people. He literally says it to Hal Jordan here. So I see two different people that are going to actually, it's not just the mentor helping the mentee, it's the mentee helping the mentor in this story, and I think they did a nice job differentiating. This is one type of Green Lantern and this is the other, and these are your prime time, but I think it's setting up Aaron Pierre to be the guy and eventually get a movie in the DCU.
Yeah, and they're setting up good story arcs with each of the characters because they're kind of like you said, they're different types of Green Lanterns, and it seems like Hal Jordan's time is coming to an end very soon, probably in this show, and he'll probably come to a realization being the mentor here, and then the mentee coming to realization being mentored by Hal Jordan. So it's setting up an easy story arc that we've seen a lot in just
Yeah,
prestige in television and movies, just in general. But here in the
buddy cop.
DCU and whatnot, and setting up a new hero for the Justice League that we've never seen on the big screen. This is a very clever way to do it. So I really did like the trailer, and I know I'm in the minority here, but I think it's just, again, we talk about expectations a lot before movies, mainly before our reviews slash reactions, right? Where were our expectations before the movie? I think for the trailer, like, this is what I expected. This is exactly what they said they were going to do, and we have to trust them. And because, like, if they're executing on actually what they're saying, that's a good thing. That's a good thing. And if they don't deliver on the Green Lantern by the end of this, or they don't actually lead into a potential solo movie or a solo John Stewart, John Lantern, John Stewart, not the talk show host, then they landed the plane. That is the goal here. So I think people just need to take a step back and just calm the F down.
I didn't know Green Lantern demanded such like attention, and maybe it's because we haven't gotten him a long time. We have the people
Forever.
that grew up with Justice League. No, well, John Stewart, we
Okay,
haven't
yeah,
gotten in
yeah,
live action, but we've had a Green Lantern movie. So I think there is some like anticipation. And this is also what it's promised with the True Detective and like Prestige Television. You saw what happened with the Penguin and all that it did at the Emmys. I think they meaning DC and James Gunn, they think this could be a show that, how the Penguin took on the Sopranos a little bit. This is taking on True Detective. Like, they're trying to replicate success here. And based on what I saw, like, pretty good. It's okay if it's like a really almost too similar to True Detective. Because when I was watching this, I'm like, they're really almost, when I felt, they're almost trying too hard to be True Detective. And then other points, I'm like, okay, there's a quip. There's another quip. And then they're talking about the Squirrel Green Lantern. I'm like, okay, they're reminding me it's the DCU. But did you feel that at times, whether it be like the music that they used, the setting that they have, the relationship between the cops? Do you think that it was too True Detective-y?
the setting and the relationship between the cops, and then the car scenes. The
Yeah.
fact that they did car scenes, like, that is
With
so
two guys
True
that can fly.
Detective.
You got to do that with them flying. That would be amazing if you had True Detective, but them flying through the air.
Yeah, right. And maybe because John Stewart can't fly yet, that might be a reason, because he doesn't have a ring or something. But I think it was that was the translation to True Detective. But you brought up the song,
Yep.
dude. Did this not sound like the Home Depot song?
Doom, 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 doom.
It sounded like the Home Depot song in this.
I was not a huge fan of it just because that to me felt like the really try hard type.
I was waiting for a Josh Lucas like narration coming narration coming over the freaking screen here.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. Was that there was a part where John Stewart, I think, was facing someone that was their face was hidden. Could that be Sinestro? Do you think they were hinting at Sinestro?
Yes, I think they were. I
The
really
tease then.
I think that was a tease, and it wasn't too much of a tease where it's obvious, but it's enough where I think it is. I'm not going to say positively it was, but I think it was a good tease.
And it certainly seems like this show is hinting at maybe Kyle Chandler's only appearance as Hal Jordan.
Dude, you don't say the line of like, I'm the Green Lantern as long as I'm still alive, like, without hinting that you're hinting at his own death.
Yes. And there also something he said. It was kind of like the tail end of the trailer after they said it was coming out in August. He said that he's the only human Green Lantern. I took this for a couple things. So we know Guy Gardner exists as Green Lantern in the Justice Gang from Superman. So, in my opinion, there is no way that Hal Jordan doesn't know about Guy Gardner because of what happened. I assume these events are taking place after the events of Superman, like the international incident, the Justice Gang going to whatever foreign country they were, depicting in that movie. But he knows Guy Gardner exists. I think he just looks down at him at such a level where he views him as like a JV Green Lantern. So I think there's more to that scene. I think a lot of these scenes, there's just more context that's needed. And I think that's why it's a good trailer. But like them saying, how do you not know like Guy Gardner like exists and all this stuff? I'm like, he definitely knows he exists, but that's going to be the beauty of it, that he thinks so little of him. That's the way
That's Hal Jordan. right? That's the character, and that's what
Right.
you want, comic book fans. You want a good Hal Jordan, and I think that's that. And I think the other thing, the last thing I had, I wanted to mention, which is a part of that scene, is the squirrel comment. If this is a James Gunn written or directed
Cameo.
project, they're including that squirrel because it's Damon Lindelof. I don't think we're seeing intergalactic. I think we're staying on Earth now. I don't think we're going to space.
I don't know because like the writers are saying like there's definitely more to this show in terms of cosmic elements than what is being shown in the teaser. I think the teaser is actually from like maybe just the first half of the season. You know, I think there is a chance John gets his powers and they go off to space to find whatever the source or origin of this issue that they're dealing with. I think there's a chance they go to
I would
space.
like that, and I thought that before this trailer, but not to hint at anything. Maybe it's because they're not VFX isn't ready yet. They've been very quiet up until this trailer, right? Not even like they had that one still before this week. Like they haven't been releasing a lot, and maybe it's a lot because they don't want the backlash like they had the Superman last year when they see Superman flying, and then there's the CGI backlash. So I actually would be a fan of that if that's the reason.
It seemed like a lot of it was set up. You know, it's like they're showing the beginning of a villain when Jon Stewart meets a villain or a villainous figure, which could be Sinestro. It's them beginning their training together. It's them thinking of a plan, but not really executing the plan. It seems like it's just a lot of setting up. And my last question before we move off of this, Jon Stewart, do you think they're going to pull a Daredevil here? Like Daredevil season 1, where he gets his suit on the last episode of the season, or are they going to be a little bit eager and they're going to try and get him that suit like mid-season?
So I was thinking about this. I think it's a good analogy of Daredevil. I think they might tease us, but I think about Watchmen. I think again, you have to think about Watchmen. Like we did get Doctor Manhattan at the end. You
Right.
know, we did get him. So
But it was worth that wait, dude. I
I,
didn't love that season.
that's what I mean. Like I think they're gonna build it up. They're gonna tease the ring. They're gonna tease the suit. They're gonna tease him building up his confidence and powers as the Green Lantern, being worthy of actually wearing the suit. And then penultimate finale, like they'll bring it.
That's the completion of whatever arc maybe Jon Stewart is on.